All right, so I am at the point where I have just about finished my first map that I ever played on Satisfactory 1.2, and I kind of feel the need to do a sort of review, if you will, or just kind of my reaction to it, having played through a whole map. And the short version is I absolutely love it. This is exactly what I wanted in an update for Satisfactory. The big thing I really want is more endgame. I want a phase 6, or I want stuff to do after we've unlocked, you know, the quantum encoders and converters and all the portals and all the cool stuff. But when they announced that they were going to let us increase the elevator, that alone was enough for me to go, okay, cool. There's a reason to build more buildings that can make my factory bigger. That's really what I was after. As you can see, we're almost done. It's gotten so big that it actually squeezes one of the products off the edge. This is something I hope they kind of fix later. It's not a big deal. You do have to go over to the elevator to see how many ballistic warp drives need to be finished, because the numbers are so wide that it squeezed the ballistic warp drives off of the objective at the top. But that's literally like my only criticism about it, other than the fact that I just want more endgame. But they're not done, and their mod support is incredible. I have been hearing a lot from the fans out there that I gotta try mods. A lot of the videos I talk about, people say, hey, mods will do that. I know I will be doing mods in the near future. I'm going to start kind of toeing into them a little bit. I'm going to do one more vanilla map. Like I've said, the reason I don't want to dive headlong into modding is because a lot of my content is very good for new players, and especially console players. And if that's you, please leave a comment. Let me know if it's helpful staying vanilla so that my content and what I'm doing is accessible and helpful to you. But in the long run, I do want to get into modding just because I want more game. There's so much game in this game, and there's so much more game for this game in the modding community. So I'm going to get into that stuff. But next up for the channel, I'm going to be finishing this map by Friday, and then we're going to start a whole new map. My goal is to go probably 50x again. One question I get a lot is, why didn't I go 100x? All impure, 5x power, double the requirements. And I've seen some people playing those games, and really cool if you're doing it with a group. I wouldn't want to do that alone. The full maxed out difficulty means you need to be very meticulous and tedious about the use of every single little possible bit of resource out there. So I didn't want to go all the way. It also gives me more room to try other stuff later. I think on the next map I probably won't go 2x on the power. I haven't fully decided. We're going to kind of crowdsource that on Friday's stream, but I want to build a new factory here in the swamp, and I'm going to do a randomizer this time. This map was not randomized. I spent so much time memorizing this map, I wanted to kind of stick with it. The one thing that is kind of a bummer about doing random maps is you don't get those convenient clusters of products. Like down here, you got all this oil in one little place. You got all this coal in one little place. That's something that you don't get when you randomize the map, but that just adds to the challenge, which is what I'm after by randomizing the map. So it's not really a complaint. It's just more like a, you know, kind of a bummer. But again, it's meant to make the map a little bit more difficult, so I know what I'm getting into. That said, I really am looking forward to starting another map. We're going to do one more solo map during my Friday, Saturday streams, and that's going to be a good time. I haven't completely decided on any restraints I'm going to put on myself for that playthrough. If you have any suggestions, you can hit me up in the comments. All right, so what did it mean to play on 1.2 with 50x on the elevator and 2x on the power? Slight spoiler alert, because if you want to know what it's like for yourself, I am going to be talking about what it took for me to accomplish this. Now, one thing I want to say is it's very easy to get this idea that you just wait longer, and you can. You could play this map just like you would a regular map, barring needing extra power, but with the 50x elevator, you could set this up the same way you would on a regular map. You just have to wait longer, and you can spend that time building more stuff. You could do that. I didn't want that experience. What I wanted was I wanted to have to build more things, and definitely the one that got me was the nuclear pasta. At this point, as we're getting close to the end of the 50x map, I have 24 particle accelerators making nuclear pasta here and an additional 15 over here, and it still kind of doesn't feel like enough. Each one produces a single nuclear pasta every 2 minutes, and we need 50,000 of them. Also, you need an additional one every minute to make the singularity cells, which are required in order to make the ballistic warp drives. Now, I was able to get through this only with one building making the ballistic warp drives, and in the first phase, I only had a few particle accelerators that were making the nuclear pasta, but at this point, this, like I said, doesn't quite feel like enough. Also, I have to point out that slooping your nuclear pasta isn't really an option. We go from 3,000 to 40,000 megawatts, because of course you want to max them out with the power shards so you get more bang for your buck, but when you put the summer sloop in there, that's 4x on the power, so it ends up costing 40,000 just to get an additional 2 nuclear pasta per minute. It's really not viable. At one point, I tried this with 3 machines, and I had 3 machines that cost 120,000 megawatts. It was more than a third of my entire power grid, and I have like one heck of a power grid in this thing. I'm up to, what, 345,000 megawatts to accommodate the 2x power and just all the extra production I had to have with this entire map. Now, the other Phase 5 stuff really didn't end up being that terrible. The AI expansion server, I did sloop this until it was finished. It wasn't really that bad. I only had to have a couple of, like, 4 particle accelerators making the dark matter crystals over there. The superposition oscillators were kind of a bottleneck, but really not that bad. Over there is my oscillator farm. That's about 2/3 of the oscillators I'm making on the map. A grand total of about 72 crystal oscillators that I'm making, mostly because I use them to make computers. All of these are making computers, and I made a ton of them because you do need a lot of supercomputers, and I kind of overdid it just a little bit. I probably went a little overkill on the computers, but also that was extra stuff for me to put into the awesome sink. I do want to unlock the golden nut in this game. I haven't gotten that achievement yet, and I'm very close to doing it, so I did do a little bit of overkill there. I also overkilled the motors a little bit. That video I did about the 120 motors per minute, I only ever ended up using about 95 per minute, but I had more and it wasn't a big deal. With regard to the power grid, I ended up doing that 36 reactor nuclear power plant, and then also over there in the distance is a 600 generator rocket fuel plant, and that was about enough. I probably could have gotten a little more. I also had a turbo fuel power plant over in the distance, over that way somewhere. You can almost barely make it out. That was about, I think, 160 generators for turbo fuel. That was sort of like my early into the mid game, and then of course I had like 2 coal plants. So all in all, I had a pretty good amount of power, but I probably could have gotten a little more. And if you went over 2x power, like, good luck. You're gonna need just such an egregious amount of power. And of course, like, the easiest part of the end game ended up being these biomechanical sculptors. This was not really that difficult, and I had quite a few machines making these. That was the first thing I finished in Phase 5, and I finished it like ages ago, and the rest of it was just fodder for the awesome sinks. So really, the only bottleneck I had was the nuclear pasta and a little bit on the ballistic warp drives, and even that wasn't all that bad, even being on 50x. Now, I did have a few bottlenecks here and there, and I'll go point out some of that. In the meantime, I do want to say, if you are interested in seeing the entire construction of this factory, I did upload all the VODs to my other YouTube channel, Thordy Undead Live. I'll put a link in the description below. It does have the entire build of this factory. It's a very long, lot of hours, but if you want to skim through it or just look at some of the parts of it and see how I built it or where I went with it, that's all available if you're interested. Now, the one bottleneck I do want to talk about was the pressure conversion cubes. I absolutely slooped the crud out of these, and it still didn't quite feel like enough. And I was making a ton of radio control units as well. I think I was pumping out something like 19 a minute at one point, and it still just wasn't enough, which is fine. Again, I keep saying it over and over, the whole point is to have more requirements. There's more buildings you have to build. And that's, I think, the best part about 1.2 is they give you the opportunity to make more factory. One of the things I found when 1.0 came out was that Phase 5 just wasn't enough. It felt kind of easy. But with this, with 1.2 and increasing what the elevator needs, it really gives you a reason to go out of your way and make these absolute bananas over-the-top massive factories. And you don't just do it for fun. A lot of people tell me, hey, you could try and produce X number of motors per minute, turbo motors per minute, whatever. But I am one of those, I need the game to tell me what to do. I need the game to give me a reason to build the thing, and they really delivered with 1.2. So that's kind of all I have in that regard. If you have any questions about it, feel free to, again, hit me up in the comments. Come on by the stream on Fridays. Let's talk about it. We have a lot more to come. There's so much more to do. There's so much game in this game, and we have mods to look forward to. So I'll absolutely keep it up. Next week, I will bring back the tips video. I got a lot of good responses on last week's tips video, and people are giving me even more tips to share. Some of them I knew, some of them I didn't, but I think it would be really good, especially for new players joining the game, our console brethren who have just now started towing into the waters of Satisfactory. So I'll get some content out for all the new folks, and if you're getting people into the game, good on ya. Bring another one into the fold, one of us. So anyway, that's all I got for you today. I hope to see you on Friday's stream. Until then, good luck, have fun, good game, and happy building.